What's up guys, Bloodshed here. Today we're going to talk about some Sage sets you can use in Season 17 Diablo 3 patch 2.6.5. Now all the builds will be in the description. There's going to be a lot of builds in the description and they're going to be updated throughout the season. So I'm going to go back, revisit them, play a bunch of builds and just keep them updated for everybody so you can always check it. All these builds were tested with 800 Paragon, no augments, but honestly T16 is a little aggressive right now. So if they tone it down, it should be fine for T16. If they don't adjust it, I have a suspicion that it's not properly scaling, that it's way too strong right now. If it gets scaled back, you should be fine. If not, then you're going to probably have to augment, or you're going to probably have to farm like 1500 Paragon to farm on T16. But it's really effective to farm on T14 or 15 because you're going to be getting like 6 guaranteed DBs on T15 with the Sage set, right? The Sage set doubles the amount of DBs that drops. And then on T14, it seems like a 75% chance to get 6 DBs per kill. So you get 2 elites and you just see 12 death's breaths. It's glorious. The first build on the chopping block today is my pick for the strongest on the list. That is the WUKO Sage set Monk. This build is super fast due to Ingeom and dashing strikes. So you're kind of porting through nonstop and you don't have the range, you don't have the Kirin helm. So we lack the range, but we're able to pick up the Sage set. And again, Sage sets from now on double the amount of death's breath that drop. Now this isn't just a seasonal theme. This is forever, it looks like. This is going to be in the game forever. And if it does get nerfed, well then you'll still have some of the best Sage set builds at your disposal regardless. You get to use the Holy Trinity with the build. That is the Gold Wrap, the Avarice Band, and Boon of the Hoarder. So you pick up more gold with the boon, and then it increases your pickup radius with the Avarice Band, and then the Gold Wrap makes you have near infinite toughness. You actually get so much toughness sometimes with gold, especially on T16. It has like double the gold that T13 has. The game stops calculating it. It just kind of just zeroes out because it doesn't have enough calculations to keep up with the amount of toughness that you have. This WUKO Monk is kind of resource starved, but we're doing a lot of things like using a lot of passives that give us resource. Epiphany is giving us resource and damage reduction, sweeping winds. Everything works together to make it as cohesive as possible. I will probably tweak a few things with the build, but as of right now, I've used this build even in past seasons before the death's breaths doubled, and it works really great. Up next, we have the NATTY Sage set for Torments. This build is really super fast. Now you are utilizing multi-shot with the build, and we all know multi-shot in general is good with every set in the game, all the Demon Hunter sets anyway. One benefit with the NATTYs is you have to keep up Reign of Vengeance. You don't have to worry about your max discipline, so you can tumble away to your heart's content. You don't have to keep up your discipline gauge if you don't want to. You just have to keep up Reign of Vengeance. I've been experimenting with different Reign of Vengeance runes, and I'll probably change it again. Like I'm always tinkering with the builds, and it's good and a bad thing, but any rune will do. The Dark Cloud follows you around. The Shade, which I'm currently using, attacks a big area, so I make sure all the mobs are getting affected by Reign of Vengeance for 5 seconds. We can't realistically fit Dawn in the cube since we have to fit in 2 different sets, like the Natty sets. We're using the NATTY weapon, and we're using Yang's Recurve in the cube actually with the Cinder Coat in the cube. Another thing with max discipline, you don't need it on your weapon, your offhand. It's almost more chill to play than multi-shot. It just is a little bit slower, but again, you do get the Sage set, so you get a huge benefit there. You're going to want to stack things like reduce cost resource. It's going to be really important in your tumbles and your multi-shots because we're not wearing the Yangs. The Yang's Recurve, if you don't know, has like a 50% reduced cost resource built into the bow itself, but you don't get that if you put it in the cube. So we're gonna have to roll RCR everywhere, but it's not too bad. You don't need a lot of cooldown since we're not using Dawn either. I am carrying Vengeance Seethe, but we don't need that much cooldown. It's just there just as an extra button to kill the Rift Guardian or just to kill elites in general. Just mix it in whenever you're low on resources. With this build, you can fit in the Holy Trinity, the Avarice, Boon of the Hoarder, Gold Wrap combo if you like. You can also fit in a few different things like a Witching Hour. I guess for me, after playing so much UE, the biggest highlight is just the mobility and not the reliance on having your discipline. You just don't have to babysit it. You just go shoot things and loot and you're good to go. We have the Witch Doctors up next. We're gonna go with the ZUNI Masa Sage set. And the highlights of this build is we're not able to fit in the Avarice Band, but we're wearing Thing of the Deep in the cube. So if you don't know, Thing of the Deep is the frog offhand. It increases your pickup radius by 20 yards. So you have no problem picking up globes and gold without running into them. We're using the Belt of Transcendence and we're spamming Hunt. We're going to be proccing our Zuni set with that. And we're going to be getting lots of fetishes. The more fetishes we have, the more damage reduction we're getting in general. So I don't have gold wrap, but we're getting lots of damage reduction from all of our set bonuses with the build. I even drop Graven Justice because we have Ingeom, so that's going to give us basically permanent Spirit Walks in between elite packs. We don't really need any cooldown beyond Spirit Walk since Haunt has no cooldown, Prononado has a low cooldown, and when you have like 50% CDR in your build and you have Ingeom, you basically have Prononado up often, so you don't have to worry about that. Another cool thing about Thing of the Deep, it increases your pickup radius. It also boosts Swampland Attunement passive, and you're going to have more damage reduction in a big area. So now this build is probably one of the squishiest on the list, but as you get more gear, it becomes less and less important, and then you can focus more on utility and speed. I love bringing homing pads in almost every farm build. I just feel like unless you have CC immunity built in, like Wrath of the Berserker, you just hit Town Portal and you're going to have a nice protective shield as you're going back to town. That's one of my favorite things, I guess, for all my farm or even bounty builds in particular. The main function of the build is to focus on gargantuan damage with Shortman's Finger, Mask of Jaram. Unfortunately, we can't fit in Tasker and Theo, but that's the price you pay when you're trying to fit in two different sets into one. Some things got to get sacrificed. So yeah, all the builds today, you definitely can mix and match certain things. So feel free to play with these kind of builds. Normally, push builds and speed builds are very particular, but with these builds in general, you can kind of play with the different runes and see what works with you. Some things work on a lower gear level, might work better on a higher gear level, or vice versa. It just really depends on the situation. Up next on our list, we have an oldie but a goodie, the CONDEMN AKKHAN Sage build. This one really asserts itself with the elites. It really pops them, puts the hurt. You're pretty much 1 and 2 shotting mobs on T15. I was even using this on T16 in its current iteration. I think it's the focus and restraint and then the high multipliers from CONDEMN itself. You get Blade of Prophecy has 800% multiplier, and so does the shield. So you have like a 1600% on top of CONDEMN. Oh man, we're using the Unleashed rune, so you don't have to wait for the thing to pull up and then you pop it. We have AKKHAN's Champion up the whole time because of the AKKHAN set. It's just really awesome getting all the DBs and not worrying about resources much, and we're moving so fast throughout the Rift. This is one of the strongest Sage builds in the game, and it'll continue here in Season 17. We don't have the Holy Trinity, but we do have the Boon of the Hoarder and Gold Wrap. As you get stronger, this is like what I was saying earlier, as your power improves, you can drop Focus and Restraint, carry like Hour Span and Stone of Jordan, and that way you get the huge pickup radius on top of it. But for early game gearing, I would recommend Focus and Restraint because it's just super noticeable. 1 to 2 shotting elites versus 3 to 4 shotting elites. It's just your efficiency goes up a lot more. Feel free to experiment with your runes. I'm using the Prophet rune, but you can use like the one that lowers all your other cooldowns or more resource or whatever you feel like you need. You definitely can play around with the different generators and things like that. Again, these kind of builds are awesome. I'm probably going to tinker with them myself throughout the PTR and on launch of the next season, so you should do the same. The next build on the list is actually 2 builds. It's the Immortal King set. One of them is with Hammer of the Ancients, and I'll kind of show it on the screen which one it is here. And one of them is with Seismic Slam. They both have Perma Ancients out, so you have a lot of tankiness, bulkiness, a lot of resource coming in from the Ancients. You have Bandamite in both builds. The Sage set, of course, in both builds as well. It feels really good because you have Sprint and you have Charge, so you have lots of mobility, and it scales really well with gear. You're basically going to be spamming Furious Charge, flying through elites, and when you use Hoda, you're going to be 1 and 2 shotting elites. When you use Seismic Slam, you're going to be 3 to 4 shotting elites, but you're going to be wave clearing. Seismic Slam has like a 50-yard AoE cone. They're both really powerful, and they both perform really well even on T16 right now. So I can only imagine if T16 gets adjusted in some way, or you know what I mean, it's going to be even better and faster. I did test Whirlwind Barb out and it just didn't feel right. It was not enough damage and not enough cohesiveness for me to really want to put it out there. I guess some of the highlights of the build is you're going to be successful, you're going to hit hard, you're going to have movement abilities, like 2 movement abilities. You don't really have that high reliance on cooldown, although you should put as much cooldown as possible. You don't need it because when you're spending Wrath, you're lowering the cooldown of Wrath of the Berserker and Call of the Ancients in the build itself. So it has like a built-in Ingiam for those abilities, a built-in cooldown mechanic for those abilities. And you have Perma Ancients built in with the 2-piece Immortal King set. So it just feels really good to play. So Diablo fans shut down. Unfortunately, it was my favorite website, but I need somewhere to put my builds. I've been getting asked ad nauseum every day on stream, so I decided to use my Patreon page as a website, right? It's super easy. I already have it. I can just put them on the front page. The builds are going to be free for everybody. There's no like exclusive content. Like if you want to support, that's cool, but it's just there, right? And so all my builds will be there, the links for everything, the videos, the written guides. It's just one nice centralized location. I have so many videos. I do a lot of Let's Plays. It can get confusing. So also make sure to follow me at twitch.tv/bloodshed. We stream there 5 to 6 days a week. I'm trying some new things with my schedule, but I'm always going to be live Monday through Friday. And that's going to be all for me today. This is the Bloodshed, and I'm out of here. Peace.